Welcome to Sony's session, Create Infinite Realities. As you may know, Sony's purpose is to fill the world with emotion through the power of creativity and technology. At Sony, we refer to emotion as the Japanese word kando, which means to be emotionally moved by something. In 10 years, what kind of kando do you imagine in the future? Sony thinks that we'll be living in a more multi-layered world where physical and virtual realities overlap without boundaries. If Sony, as a creative entertainment company, will be filling the world with new kando in that future, what kind of experiential value would we be offering to make that happen? To explore this question, we brought out the concept of creative entertainment vision, envisioning through the lens of Sony's creativity and technology. As you watch the video right before the session, you may have noticed the different ways that IP can be handled or experienced, from creation to cross-media adaptations to immersive experiences. These are among many of the things that Sony is hoping to accomplish in the next 10 years. To realize this vision, there are many initiatives within Sony. Today, we will hear from professional photographer using Sony XYN Spatial Capture solutions to create three-dimensional images for virtual production and beautiful dynamic artwork. Joining us on stage are professional photographer, cinematographer, and writer working across fashion, film, and aviation, Jeff Berlin, director of photography and producer Eric Liebman, and from Sony, Kenny Nakamura, who leads business development for XYN Spatial Capture Solutions, Sam Fairs, senior marketing manager for virtual production, and Jen Sugarman, who leads marketing for XYN Solutions. Please welcome Jeff, Eric, Kenny, Sam, and Jen to the stage.
Thank you. Hello, Austin, and we hope that you're having a wonderful South by Southwest. And thank you for joining us on our panel today. XYN Spatial Capture opens frontiers in photography. Before we get started, we did want to give a little bit more background on our two special guests here, and these two wonderful creators have spent a lot of time with our new XYN Spatial Capture technology. And first, Jeff Berlin. So Jeff is a photographer and cinematographer and DP. He has photographed celebrities, and his work has been featured in fashion magazines such as British Elle and Vogue Italia. He's also shot for brands such as Estee Lauder, and recently has been worked as a DP on acclaimed Netflix documentary Anita. And for those of you in the audience who might be fans of the hit show Landman, Jeff has recently also photographed one of the main cast actresses, Kayla Wallace. So thank you, Jeff, for being here. Next, Eric Liebman. So Eric Liebman is a filmmaker and DP. His work has been featured on most major networks, including ESPN, History Channel, and A&E. Eric has also had extensive experience in the virtual production space and has done virtual production work for professional soccer broadcasts, as well as special virtual production projects for famous IP, such as Dungeons and Dragons. So thank you, Eric, for being here as well.
Thank you.
So definitely want to get to your experience with this new technology, but first, we'd love to have Kenny talk a little bit more about XYN Spatial Content Creation Solution as a whole. And Kenny is leads product and business development for Sony's XYN Spatial Capture Solution in the US.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, so last CES 2025 at CES, we announced XYN, pronounced XYN, a suite of Sony solutions that support spatial contemplations. And within this XYN, we have two software solutions and 3 hardware solutions. And for the software side, we have a motion capture studio come up with a motion capture solution hardware called Mokopi. And we have a 3D spatial reality display for playing back the 3D content. And then today we're going to featuring the 3D capture solutions. And as you can see, for the spatial capture solutions, we develop not just the algorithm itself, but also develop a Navi app to help people to capture object scenes without any background of photogrammetry or even any photography as well. And on top of their Navi app, we develop a web applications where you can upload the images and reconstruct the 2D images into the 3D.
Zine.
So this is a video of we proposing for the batch production backdrop workflow. So we like to for example, for the scenes where you want to show the castle, but it's kind of sometimes it's hard to secure the spots and bring in all clues into that. And but for using the virtual productions and our solutions, we digitalize the scenes really simply. Without this Navi app, anyone can be a great photographer, photogrammetry, photographers, and help you capture the scenes. And also, once you capture that, upload it to the web applications, you're about to see this. So without any Navi app, sometimes you need to understand how to capture the scenes, but that Navi app help you understand the positions. And then once you upload it on the web applications, we have some renderer for the Unreal Engines. You can upload it to the splats to the Unreal Engine. You will get these 3D assets right away. And as you can see, it's really futuristic 3D scenes is instantly. You can get their assets right away. Okay, thank you.
So Kenny, I know that this is brand new software, but you have been able to take this and show this at different events and also show it to different companies. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so as you can see, we are seeing in these 4 pillars of industry, our initial target is like virtual productions and the VFX and the gaming and also industry as well. But we received a really positive feedback so far, and however, receiving a lot of good feedback from those studios, also we realized that how could we provide this special technology directly to the individual artists and creators, and also photographer like Jeff and Elk, and who has deep understanding of this technology and also the strong affinity for the art.
So Jeff and Eric. Once Kenny introduced you to this new technology and this new software, what was your initial reaction?
When I learned about this new software and this new technique to capture 3D backgrounds, it was really, it was really exciting because there was this incredible democratization of the technology where it was cameras that I already owned and my phone, literally my personal phone with the Navi app. I could pair them, and Eric and I would go out and we would create these 3D backdrops that, it was just a much simpler solution than we had previously been exposed to. And, last year I did a fashion story for a magazine against a virtual production, against a volume wall, an LED wall, and it was just flat 2D art that we, kind of placed up on the wall. So when I moved around the models, there was no shift in the background. It was just that, what was there. And now, when we took it into the DMPC, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but to this opportunity to actually see parallax and depth, and and as I move around the model, to see shift in the background as well, that was really revelatory. It was really exciting.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Eric too, kind of, your initial reaction to the software.
I think I'm probably a little bit less of a photographer and more of a shooter than Jeff. I've done some photography, so my first reaction was, oh, this is going to be great, just from a virtual production creation point of view for, video solution. But the really first impression came when we went out into the field, and as Jeff said, you're just attaching the phone to the camera. There's not a lot of complex calibration or anything like that. Most of the ways that the markers are set and the augmented reality assistant in the phone really tells you, we didn't do a lot of studying. We just were let's see how hard it is when we plug it in, and we just see what happens and we follow it. And it was stupid simple. It was like that. We just basically were okay, that's what we want. And it was icon based, and the marking of the ground was easy. And the other idea that I was really struck by was the flexibility on site. So you're not stuck shooting out exactly what you first set up. We in the moment decided, oh, that's not working. We want to do it over here instead. And now we were chasing light because we went for a sunset dramatic. We were able to get ourselves to the point where we were setting up finishing a scan in 10 minutes. So we realized that it was fast, really simple to understand, and iterate in the moment and just learn. And even in our first day learning, we walked away with 4 or 5 of these scans that we were happy with. So it's really powerful in terms of its simplicity, even though it's a professional solution.
Great. So I know you took this out on various locations and you've spent a lot of time with the software. We do have a behind-the-scenes video, so let's take a look at the video for your experience.
As filmmakers and photographers, we are always chasing the perfect backdrop.
But what if you could capture that beauty and bring it anywhere you need it? That's what Sony's XYN Spatial Capture makes possible.
It's pretty cool. Having worked for years in the photography and film industries, we know what it's like to coordinate teams of people, get them on location. I mean, there's travel, we got to bring gear, it takes a lot of time. It can be immense.
And that's even before you turn on the camera.
It's cool to see virtual production becoming more and more accessible to more people. I've worked on a number of virtual production sets, and it makes the logistics so much easier, especially when we need to do a pickup or a reshoot.
Now, we don't need to send the whole crew back. Instead, we bring the virtual background right into the studio.
While the film industry's virtual production has become increasingly more accessible, in the photography world, it still hasn't been widely adopted.
So when Sony introduced us to the Navi app and spatial capture solution, we immediately wanted to try it for photography as well. And the idea of creating these 3D images was really exciting.
Yeah, it was cool. I had a lot of fun. As artists, we now have the ability to craft 3D images that are more dynamic and more immersive. This technology unlocks creativity in a new way, transforming your imagination, and it turns it into incredibly dynamic art.
We used Sony's Alpha 1, A7R5, and A7CR cameras, paired with the Navi app and XYN Spatial Capture software to create photorealistic 3D environments. And I have to say, it's a real game changer for virtual production.
The workflow is simple. The Navi app helps us plan and execute the capture. I just downloaded the app onto my smartphone, tethered it to one of my Alpha cameras, and we were ready to go.
The Navi app guided us so we knew what shots we needed to take, from what angles, and how many images we needed to create a complete 3D background.
And once we were done with the image capture, we processed and uploaded the image files to Sony's XYN Spatial Capture software, which stitches it automatically together in the cloud. It's really cool.
What I love most is the flexibility. I can shoot a desert landscape or a restaurant interior today and use that same environment for a studio shoot tomorrow.
It saves time, reduces costs, opens up incredible creative possibilities.
The best part is that there's virtually no barrier to entry.
You know, seeing the 3D images on the crystal LED wall for the first time, it was breathtaking.
But you know, the thing is though, even on the much smaller spatial reality display that Sony makes, I was blown away by how immersive it looked without glasses, without any special gear.
I think it's just so high resolution and so high quality.
So details.
Super versatile. It's just a lot of fun.
We strongly recommend this to creators who want to take on new forms of expression and expand their creative horizons.
Wow, I love that video. It's awesome to just see the technology brought to life in that way, I think. So Eric and Jeff, could you take us a little bit more through that actual capture process?
Well, you know, as we were saying, it's super simple, you know, where we're just using one of those 3 cameras and connecting it to the phone. But what I think has been really fun about this process is that it kind of almost forces you to see the world in a new way. I mean, it really, you know, you're looking all of a sudden now for depth and dimension and ways to capture, you know, or locations where you can capture that parallax. So as you get into the studio and you can move and position your background, you're seeing all this depth and dimension. And yeah, I mean, it's really already, it seems like a very mature technology, although there's still some room for refinement and little things, but it's really, it's an incredible revelation for somebody like me to be able to take a location and bring it inside, match light, and you know, it kind of creates a new world, an opportunity.
I was going to add to that by saying it was a lot of fun as shooters and creators to be out there. And initially, we would look at an environment where we're creating backgrounds, and we would have to think about all the flat back planes that we would want to create. And you may want to have to think that through. In photography, you definitely would need to think it through and shoot all of those possibilities. But what happened here is we started looking at environments in completely different ways because you were now able to bring the whole environment back with you. And so when you reframe for photography, you can reframe compositionally the way you would in a real environment. And you almost don't think of that before you actually get out in the field and are starting to do the scan, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to be able to look around this object, so therefore, how does the lighting affect that, or should I do, and so you're really just thinking a different way on that level. And then the other thing that I thought was really fascinating was this ability to just plan your groupings of what you're going to cover. So if you would just sort of get everything you needed and bring it back, you didn't have to pick it apart there. You knew you were going to bring the whole, and it was a safe environment, a safe sort of asset to bring back because it was going to come back with all that versatility as opposed to limitations. And that was just amazing. And it was, the other really neat part for me too was while we were driving back, we were uploading the files. So we were just like, they said you could upload this on the phone, so let's just try it. And we drove back from the location, and then when we got back, the renders were done, and we were already looking at them. So you could,
it's a long drive.
Yeah, it takes a minute, but you could do this in the field and even go back and adjust a little bit if you really wanted to see the scan. So there's just tons and tons of flexibility that you wouldn't even think of ahead of time or expect.
You know, to take that a little further, one of the things that I discovered in the process that I was doing was, I kind of incorporated my own workflow into it, where, as I became more conversant with the technology and the whole process, it was just easier to, it just became so much easier to make it our own and really get the quality out of it that we wanted. And
to add to that is another aspect. Because you're dealing with a photograph level of resolution and quality, it's not like doing it with a video camera at all. You can move into the space, you can get closer, further away, and everything stays high res. So it's different than a typical virtual background in that regard. It's almost like getting a LiDAR scan in a lot of ways.
So let's add to that, because once you did create those amazing, stunning 3D images, you, as you noted, now moving it and actually using it in a virtual production space. I know you had tapped Sam, who leads marketing for our virtual production category at Sony, and is also the head of our digital media production center. So would love for Sam to speak a little bit about that.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, it was actually a great experience because we weren't at the locations. We didn't get to go with you guys. So you sent us the files that were rendered. That it takes what? 3 hours to render, which that was probably your drive, right? Which maybe from Joshua Tree, right? And we actually are using the Joshua Tree back there in our virtual Venice demo because we love the fact that this, we've seen a lot of splats in the last 5 years. People come and bring this content to put up on our wall to test it out before they go on a real shoot. And we've seen some really bad splats, like really, a lot of floaties and a lot of, non-photorealistic images. And when you guys brought this over and sent the files to us, you actually uploaded it to the Sony C Cloud, which is an easy way for us to actually see it before you got there, set it up, put it up on the LED wall, and we were just like blown away. And now, as part of our kind of virtual production demo, we use it, and people think it's like photo. When they come in, they're like, wow, that's a really high-quality photo. And it's like, well, let's move the dolly over. And then as soon as they see the parallax shift, they're like, oh, my God, what? This is not a photo? And it's like, yeah, this is not a photo. And then when we boom up on the dolly, you also see the horizon shifting. And that's just one of the, I think, missing parts of virtual production was always being able to have this high-quality asset to be in the background. Like you either had to have a 2D plate that, like you mentioned before, did not move with the camera tracking, or you had to put up a photo and then have that not move with the tracking, or you had to basically recreate a 3D environment in Unreal Engine, which if I had to go back and create Joshua Tree, that would have taken me weeks, And you guys said, how long did it take you to scan that one scene of Joshua Tree? Like 10 minutes, And so for anyone working in virtual production, I think this is an amazing tool, and that's why we now have a Zin room right in the DMPC, which is our Digital Media Production Center in Los Angeles. Anybody who lives in Los Angeles or is going to be there in the next couple months, please reach out to me. We'd love to have you come check it out, a tour, and see all of the Sony technologies working together under one roof in a production environment, right? So yeah, I thought it was really amazing. And we also have an SRD display there, so they were able to check out their content on this glassless 3D, which we also brought. I think there's 4 of them back there. You should definitely check them out because really seeing is believing. You can't see the 3D image on this projection right now, so you have to sit in front of the screen because there's a little camera right on top that allows the image to shift as your face is moving. So like if you move around, the perspective changes, right? So it's really seeing is believing. So please check it out after the panel. So I hope I answered that question for you. Thank you, Jen. And thanks for letting me be a part of this. This is really cool.
Yes, and thank you so much for all of your support. So taking a look at some of these now final images, such as this one on the right, I would love to hear from Jeff and Eric, just what was your reaction seeing these 3D images on our crystal LED wall for the first time?
It was really jaw-dropping, honestly.
I saw his jaw drop.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I mean, you have the quality of the CLED first, which is pretty amazing.
Which is also back there, right?
And then to see these, it really, they're so sharp photographically, but then you can actually manipulate them So like when I put the model in space and on our stage, I put her in position, and then I was like, I think I want to shoot her from this angle, but I want the background to shift that way. And you have, again, last year I did this on a 2D, and it was so limiting. It was just, there was nothing, it wasn't interesting, and then to get into the DMPC against this, the C-LED, and be able to shift perspective and adjust the perspective exactly how I want the final image to look. It's, as a photographer or even as a filmmaker, to have that latitude in perspective, it's revelatory. It's game changer.
Yeah, no, and I thought that you guys did an amazing job really marrying the foreground and the background together, right? So that's really a key part of selling the magic. Like you can see here, she's carrying a flower. She's in front of a flower shop. She's sitting on a bench in like Pasadena, and even like with a camera crew, they would have hated you if you told them to go all the way down those stairs in Malibu, right, with the camera gear and everything to shoot that. And now we could just put it up and have sunset forever. We could shoot days in sunset.
Another amazing aspect to that point is these environments had people in them when we were shooting them.
Yeah.
So they're completely peopleless if you look at the pictures.
Especially the flower shop.
The flower shop had a ton of people buying flowers. And then the stairs intermittently had people coming down the stairs. And I remember when we started, Sony was like, well, there's recognition technology. It'll remove people, so don't worry about it too much, but try to avoid people. Eventually, it got to the point when some of the tourist spots we were like, we're just going to see how far this goes because we're not stopping these people. And it really got rid of everybody that we needed. 90% of the time, we didn't have to redo much. And then when we were using it, we were even doing things in the flower shop. We added an apple box so the young lady would step down during the dolly move, and it just sold it completely. Like the lighting did its job, and then a couple of things. But when you look at the end result and the movement and the tracking and how good it is, as you were saying, but then you realize that image was created, that Gaussian spot was created in a few minutes. And other than the simple color correction type of approach, nothing else was done to it. That's the background.
Well, and that's what I want to add to, if I could, is that we would shoot and have the camera set to shoot raw. And then we would take it into a raw processing program like Capture One, and you can go in, and you can actually do some obviously color correction and control your black levels and things like that, all your contrast. But then you can also take that and Photoshop out elements and really clean up the images, and then upload those full res JPEGs to the cloud and have those processed. So there is a lot of latitude that I've never seen before creating plates like these on the post side, where again, it's just it's as a photographer, it's a really familiar workflow, which makes it again so much easier to get the desired result. It's amazing.
Great. I'd love to pose a question to the whole panel, actually. What do you think this type of technology means for the future of photography?
I can answer a little bit of that. I've seen a lot of interest from studios. Some of the major studios in LA are really interested in being able to capture their lit sets, like as they're lit, ready to shoot, because sometimes they might not have access to that same stage. And so being able to have to do pickups or anything like that, they can relight and scan and then relight it again and scan, or maybe move some furniture around. And now they have multiple versions of that set. Another one I think is also miniatures, being able to, really take high quality photo scans of miniatures and then blow those up on an LED wall. And now you have like that full set. You don't have to build a whole set actually to be able to showcase it on there. And now the fact that, Kenny has mentioned to me that you guys can do 180, you could literally scan a whole neighborhood or a whole area and then move that in Unreal to wherever you want to place the camera. And that's something that we either had to go and shoot on that location or recreate that whole environment in Unreal, or, have to deal with the lack of parallax shift when we move the camera, right? So now that's really given us all these different tools and ways to to really recreate backgrounds and allow us to be more flexible in pre-production all the way up to post-production, right? Because we have all the metadata throughout the whole pipeline. So.
Yeah, I think it's really important as a photographer, because I'm coming to this very much from the photography side, and I think it's so important to embrace the technology and embrace new technology, and this is so cutting edge. Like I've never had the opportunity before to go onto a virtual set and change the background in a way where, like, in our restaurant scenario that we had, I really loved it because when we set our model up at a table and we had some plants on the table, but we wanted when we put the background up on the wall, we realized that it was better coming, a little bit more towards the windows, towards the street, and to see everything shifting, and you're seeing behind things, and the bar is shifting this way, and you're seeing the text shift over, and the lights, the parallax between the lights moving, and I mean, it's to be able to incorporate that into a studio shoot, that I've never been able to do that before.
You're actually changing the compositional balance of the background as opposed to just...
It's like real-time composition of my background in studio, of my plate, to create, and that's something that I've never been able to do before. So it's really, really, interesting. And then, and then again, it's with the gear that I already own. So it's not like I had to go out and buy anything specific. It's the gear I already own, an app, and I can create this new world.
Eric, did you want to add?
I think one thing I wanted to add was this idea that struck me while I was shooting and creating these with Jeff, was that if I was making an indie film or a commercial or just some kind of project, there's no way I wouldn't now use this. I would have this on site, and I would send my AC or my DP, and I'd say, just cover the entire environment. Shoot that angle. Every angle that our camera shot on a reversal or a master, I would have 2 coverage angles. Now that we have 180, you don't even need to do that. You could just do the one. So to go back home with your sets, your live sets that are usable in that way, is pretty powerful. And for an indie filmmaker who doesn't get to do that in their process, now you can add that to your process. So the creative opportunities are kind of endless.
So one last question. Would you, and this is again more for Eric and Jeff, what advice would you give to someone who has never done a 3D scan before and wanted to try this out? What advice would you give them?
I got to be honest, I think the advice is don't worry about it. It's that simple. You don't have to know how to do it. I intentionally did not read or plan anything before our first shoot. I was like, I want to see what this is like out of the box and what we're confronted with. And it was really just like, oh, that's obvious. Just a couple of minutes of reading the basics, and it was so simple. So my advice is just use it, just do it and use it. And because it takes 10 minutes, just shoot everything and watch what happens to it, because your ideas are going to explode then, and then you'll go back armed with all of because we thought of a million things on site while we were using it. So just use it.
I mean, to take that further, when this project was proposed to us and we had our briefing with Kenny, he sent us a PowerPoint, and it was literally 8 minutes of reading this PowerPoint. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. And then Eric and I go out and we do some tests, and the cars that would drive through would disappear, the people would disappear, and we're realizing how just easy it is. It's just go do it. It's like you have the gear already.
Well, remember, we were even concerned about lighting, because the sun was
Yeah, we
getting
were worried
low
about
in the
the-
sky and it was moving.
Yeah, because we thought it was going to take a lot longer.
It balanced it out. It found the middle ground. It kind of does it all
Yeah,
for you.
it was really it's just deceptively easy.
All right, so we do want to save a little bit of time for questions, as we're about out of time. Before we move to questions, though, want to make a couple of notes. So if you are interested in learning more about the XYN Spatial Capture technology and XYN solutions as a whole, please scan the QR code and you'll be added to our newsletter. We also have a demo station in the back where you can talk to our Sony XYN team and take a closer look at the solution as well.